your parents, buy a new car, home, travel, get to the top of this organization is on the other side of this operating system. So let's start at the very baseline. What is the root control factor for all your results in life? If I were to boil down the principles of success down to one thing, the core, where it all begins, where it all emanates from, what is that? In other words, we all come into this world exactly the same. Naked, scared, and ignorant. Gosh. Some of us a little uglier. I mean, you saw my baby photo, right? Didn't start out good. And then what you do thereafter defines the outcomes of your life. So ask yourself, what's the one thing that determines whether at the end you end up living here or you end up living here? There's only one thing. There's only one thing that will determine the difference between whether you end up driving this or whether you end up driving this. After you come in naked, scared, and ignorant, you are either going to end up in a long life where at the end you end up broke, despondent, and lonely, or you end up in a marriage of 50 years of incredible bliss and deep intimacy. Or D, you're either going to be able to send your children to the greatest universities in the world, or no matter what it is they qualify for, they can't go because you can't afford to send them. Only one thing will determine whether you can donate to your charity to your greatest heart's content, travel the world in fantastic luxury. As Curly from City Slicker said, right? It all comes down to the one thing. What's the one thing? Holy crap, I'm glad I came today. Your entire life is going to come down to one thing, and you don't know what the one thing is. Here's what it is. It all comes down to choices. Right now, as you sit there in this chair, right now, you are nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made up to this point. Your whole life is nothing but that. Your waistline is nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made up to this point. The intimacy of the relationships in your life, nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made. Your income, the size of your organization, your bank account, nothing but the accumulated compound effect of the choices you've made. So if we're going to change the trajectory of your life, starting today, we have to go down to the core root cause of it all, and that is your choices. So now you might be asking, so choices is the first line of code in the operating system. You might be asking, what choices? Because we're faced with hundreds of choices all day throughout the day. What choices matter the most? How many people here have ever been bit by an elephant? Mosquito. Anybody ever been bit by a mosquito? It's considered to be the #1 deadliest animal on the planet to the human species. See, nature provides clues. It's always the little things in life that will bite you and ultimately get you. The question I'm asked most often is, okay, you see these people that are in the cover of Success magazine. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and we only get to pick 12 each year to be on the cover of Success magazine. So the question is what is it that these 12 people did differently than 7 billion to get them on the cover of Success magazine? So let me first start with the things that they didn't do, because these are the myths that people believe these people did in order to get on the cover of Success magazine. So here's not the key to their great success. Any heroic feats. Nobody you see on the cover of Success magazine would be deemed a hero. They didn't do anything heroic. They also didn't perform any grand acts of bravery. This is another legend and myth in American culture, which is just leap and hope that the net appears. Oh, don't do that, because you'll bounce really hard. Uh-oh, I just crushed my dealio. Let me go fix that. See what happens when you leap? Oh, crashed it. Oh, now it's pissed. I'm sorry. All right. We good?
No. Yes.
They did not have any quantum leap. You know, that thing where right place, right time, just all a matter of factor of timing. There wasn't any quantum leaps involved. And here's what it was a result of. If you want to know how to get on the cover of Success magazine or any fantastic success, this is the formula. Success is a result of small, seemingly insignificant in the moment-to-moment choices. Small little choices like, hey, at lunch, you go into a restaurant, you're presented with a menu, and a menu is what? Just a whole collection of choices. Do you choose the hamburger and fries, or do you choose the salad? Now that doesn't seem to be like a Success Magazine cover a worthy decision. I'm telling you, it is. Small little choices like, oh, now you're gonna be thick, huh? At the end of a long, hard day, do you stop by the gym and put in a workout, or do you rush home to catch your favorite sitcom? Dances with the Stars, or American Idol, or all the rest of this, where you watch other people living out their dream. Small choices like in the middle of an argument, do you spin on your heels and say, I've had enough, I'm not talking to you anymore, and walk out of the room? Or do you spin on your heels, say you're sorry, and choose to make a moment of magic? Small little choices like in a networking event, do you walk across the room and introduce yourself to that person that you're intimidated to meet? Or do you hunker down in fear one more time? Small choices like at the end of a long day, do you put in a few more calls? Or do you simply just call it a day? You see, these small choices add up to big differences in results. Let me give you a for instance. If I gave you the choice of a penny, a copper penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or $1 million in cash right now, how many people picked $1 million in cash? Okay, tough crowd. All right, let me sweeten the offer. Yeah, all right, well, for those who haven't, you read your book. That's good. If you've been to the movie, don't shout it out to the rest of the crowd. All right, 2 million. Anybody at 2 million? There's a time when this math's going to change on you here, right? 3 million. How many people picked 3 million over the penny? Well, you're so smart, you knew, but your neighbor did not know. So let's take the difference between you and your neighbor, right? Because this is the way, and what I want you to discover is not the actual math, but the experience that goes along with the process of making one choice over another. You see, let's say you pick the penny, and you're 5 days into it, and your lousy penny is only 16 cents. Meanwhile, your neighbor is partying like a rock star next to you because they picked $3 million. And you're going, this doesn't seem like a wise choice. 10 days later, your penny's turned into $5.12, not enough for a Happy Meal, not that you'd ever order one of those. But your neighbor is out on the water on a yacht with Robin Leach, drinking champagne, having caviar wishes, right? Day 20, your penny's $5,242. All along the way, they got $3 million having a grand old time. Well, you know, and wise enough to know, that your penny at the end of 31 days turns to $10,737,000. Now here's the key point. This is the reason why Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Because the math between day 1 and day 2 is exactly the same math between day 30 and day 31. But the results that are visible are dramatically different. Which means that the choices you're going to make here today, this afternoon, is the same choices you'll make 20 years down the road. But the differences that those choices will have on the compound effect of your results will be dramatically different. More practically put, 3 friends start out exactly the same place. They all make $50,000 a year. They moved to the suburbs. They bought a house, white picket fence, 2.2 children, right? They're all starting off exactly the same. Now, Scott goes through the airport, finds a Success Magazine tucked in the backseat of a pocket of a plane, not something he'd normally read. He starts flipping through it, gets inspired to try a couple of things. Here's what Scott's going to do. Instead of getting up in the morning and reading about all the murders, tragedies, and corruption that's happening in the world in the newspaper, he's going to get up and just read 10 pages of a good book every single night. Every morning. Something positive, something instructional, something informative. Instead of listening to drive time yak radio on the way to the office, he's going to put in a CD, something positive, something inspirational, something that is instructional for him. He's going to take 125 calories out of his diet. That's it. That's half a candy bar or a small bowl of cereal. No rash diet. He's not going to go on some incredible fitness program. He's going to drink 2 bottles of water a day. He's going to park at the back of the parking lot and walk in. He's going to miss a few. He's going to make a few more calls at the end of the day, and he's finally going to make his weekly date night with his wife a priority. Okay, that's all Scott's going to do. That's his entire success plan. Now, how many people believe they could do Scott's plan?
Yeah.
Easy. Now, Larry's just going to keep being Larry, okay? Larry's like most people, status quo. Brad's just going to start making some slight, seemingly insignificant poor choices. Here's what he's going to do. He's going to munch on a little bit of junk food around the office. You know the chocolate-covered pretzels at the end of the secretary's desk? A half a handful of chocolate-covered peanut M&Ms. That's all he's going to add into his diet. He's going to miss a couple of workouts a week. He's going to drink more Diet Coke than water, God forbid. He's going to move around a little less because he's working at his computer most of the day. He's going to skip a prospecting call or two. And he's going to give the cold shoulder to the spouse, to his wife at home, just a few times throughout the week. No big deal. We're not going to call Jerry Springer over to come and fill this domestic situation. Just a cold shoulder a few times throughout the week. Now, as you start to add up the differences between these choice structures, here's what it starts to look like. 5 months down the road, absolutely no difference between these three friends. 10 months down the road, absolutely no difference, mathematically, visible, or otherwise. Now, Scott's going, what is going on? I'm reading this book every morning, I'm listening to these CDs, I'm doing this damn date night every week with my wife. My buddies are sloughing off, and we have exactly the same results. You can see how people get faked out. Now, 20 months down the road, 20 months of these sustained choice structures, slight, Brad's starting to feel it in the belt a little bit, tension and anxiety started to set in at the office, apathy has started to set in at home. Now, the neighbors and friends, they really can't tell, but there's just an undercurrent that started to take place. It's not until 27 months down the road that the differences between these three friends are dramatic. Let's add it up. Here's what Scott's done in 27 months. He's read 47 books on success and achievement. Now, most people who graduate with a university degree don't read 3 books the rest of their entire life. He read 47 in 27 months. Listened to 465 hours of success and achievement audio just while driving around the last 27 months. The 125 calories he cut out of his diet means that he lost 33 and a half pounds. I spent the day with Dr. Oz a few months ago. Do you realize that we could end, this is what he said, we could end obesity in America today if everybody just took 125 calories off their base diet. That's all it takes. Drinking more water, he drank 3,700 gallons of water. He walked 900 miles, which means he lost another 30 pounds. The 125 date nights with the wife, I had photos with that. It got risque, let me say. He made 1,860 extra calls that he wouldn't have made if he closed 3% of those, which means he didn't learn anything from those books or audios. He increased, on top of his $50,000 a year income, an additional $279,000. How small, seemingly insignificant, and easy choices add up over time. Now, Larry is like most people in America, just doing what he's always been doing, treading water, falling a little bit further behind, becoming disenchanted, bored, apathetic, and passionless, and blaming Obama, right? Brad's results look like this. The 125 calories he added to his diet means that he added 33 and a half pounds. Missed a couple of workouts, more Diet Coke, now he's under cardiac arrest danger. Missed a few meetings, made a few less calls, now he's on the verge of being fired or under financial emergency. The inattention and cold shoulder to the spouse means that apathy is deep and he's on the brink of divorce. Small, poor choices added up over time. Now, if you want a copy of these slides, this is a simple thing. All you do is just text your name and email address to that phone number, okay? And it will send you a link where there's the video, the audio, the slides, and worksheets to go along with this whole thing. And the full presentation is 90 minutes, so you'll get the whole thing versus even what I'm doing for you here, okay? So if you want to write it down, it's 510-296-6208, but you have to do it in 48 hours, otherwise it gets transferred to a future audience that I'm talking to, okay? And it's over in the corner if you didn't get it. So all of this seems relatively easy. This is the big conundrum. Why do people still fail and go about making poor choices? Well, here are 4 traps that you will face. These traps are outside this conference hall right here. These traps are in your home, they're in your office, they're in your car. So I want to point these traps out so that you don't accidentally step in them and then get yourself derailed and go back to making poor choices. So these are the 4 traps that we're all faced with. The first thing is this. In the moment that you're making the decision, the consequences or the result or the outcome are absolutely invisible. And this is why people get faked out. Now, I could change your choice structure like this if I had the ability to take the space-time continuum and collapse it. Which means you're making this choice right now, that choice stretched out over 10, 15, 20 years. If I could collapse it, you would make a different choice, I promise. For instance, let's say at lunch you did pick the hamburger and fries. And I took the space-time continuum of that choice and I showed it to you now, and your gut explodes, your heart explodes in your chest, and you drop to the ground in a heart attack. Would you lose the taste of hamburger pretty quickly? Well, what if you woke up the next morning like this? How do you get like that? Well, it's one hamburger bite at a time, over time. Or let's just say that, you're out with your girlfriends and you don't smoke, but you're having a good time, and they're like, hey, just try this. And you're like, we're having a good time, I'll try it. And you breathe it in, you finish the cigarette, and you're like, wow, you know what's funny is I actually feel better after smoking a cigarette than I did before. Maybe it's the first time you've breathed deeply in a long time, right? But what if I could take the space-time continuum and collapse it, and the next morning, you woke up like this? Or let's take a look at this young man, all right? So he tries his first cigarette. He's getting all this positive affirmation. His buddies think he's cool. He's a rebel. He's doing it behind the school and all the rest of this. I mean, it looks like a young James Dean, right? But what if I could take the space-time continuum, show him his future self, and have him talk to him right now? What would he tell his future self? Put it down. But you see, all along the way, it didn't look like it was having that big of an effect on his life. It's not till the very end that we see the dramatic impact of those small little choices. For instance, now I'm from San Diego, and we just had a very tragic situation happen. This man right here, Jesus, his name escapes me. Tony Gwynn was drafted in 1981, third pick in Major League Baseball. And he played for the San Diego Padres for 20 years straight. One team. He's only one of 2 players that ever did that, and had an illustrious career. During his playing years, he started doing chew tobacco that he put in the right side of his cheek. And he ended up, for 20 years, it had no consequence to him whatsoever. Didn't notice the impact of it at all. That's what I'm telling you. During this span, you notice nothing. He even finished with legendary status, inducted into the Hall of Fame with Cal Ripken, unanimous decision, one of the greatest hitters to ever play the game of baseball. And then in 2010, and then he went on to coach baseball for his alma mater for 12 more years. All along the time doing this chew tobacco, having no impact on him whatsoever. And then in 2010, he was diagnosed with lymphomic or salivary gland cancer. And they had to remove the tumor. He lost the ability to even move the right side of his face, blink his eye, and the rest of it. This was one of the last known photos of him. And just this week, at age 54, he died. Now, all along the way, you didn't see the impact of that choice. It wasn't until the last 4 years where it went like that you saw the results. Let's say you promised to make a few prospecting calls every single day, and you're like, today I got a headache, I got to pick up the kids, I got to get dinner started. I'll make up for it tomorrow. And we call on the Donald, you're fired from Beachbody, and your house goes up on the chopping blocks. Or let's say you're in the middle of an argument, you're like, I know we promised we'd never go to bed angry, but I just can't deal with this tonight. We'll talk about it in the morning, and you go sleep in the guest bedroom, and the next morning you wake up to divorce papers, and you've got to look your little girl in the eye and explain why you couldn't make a different choice. You see, all the choices we make have, to put into another terms, a butterfly effect in your life. You guys know what the butterfly effect is, right? Butterfly flaps its wings in one area, and then a tsunami happens on the other side of the planet. Same thing happens in your life. A little butterfly choice of a flap of a wing happens over here, and 10, 15, 20 years down the road, there's a tsunami in your life. Positive or negative? So the first thing I need to tell you about this trap is, While you are going along, you have to be patient. When you start making positive choices, you will not see the evidence of a positive result at all for a very, very long time. Just have patience. Here's trap number 2. When you change your trajectory, it's subtle and deceptive. You won't even notice that you're going in a different direction. For instance, let's say that we took a plane and we're taking from LAX to LaGuardia. And when it's on the tarmac, its nose is pointed directly at LaGuardia, okay? And it's only off by 1 degree. That's from here to here. You see that? From here to here. See that? Yeah. In other words, not much. By the time it gets all the way across the country, it'll end up 2 states away, 150 miles off of its intended course. This is what happens in people's lives. They get 10, 15 years down the road and then they go, what happened?